Okay, first of all, I gotta apologize in advance. This video is gonna be messy because I'm just doing it all in one take, and I gotta apologize for how many times I'm gonna say or because it's gonna be a lot, and that you're gonna hear the buttons on my stick. So this is not meant to be pretty. I just want to get the information out there. So the whole point is just to demonstrate how Marisa's level 1 super works, because the game demonstrates 2 ways you can use it, but there's actually 3, and the third one is the most interesting, and so I want to show that off. So the normal way, you just input the super, and it does decent damage. One of the key things that you can see on the frame display at the bottom is that, unlike most supers that have a few frames of strike invulnerability, but they're not invulnerable to projectiles, Marisa's level 1 super is all armor. It actually has one frame of, you can't see it now because this replaced it, but it has one frame of true invincibility at the very beginning, but then there's 17 frames of armor, and then it hits on frame 19. So it's actually really slow compared to most other supers. Most tend to be 6 frames, 8 frames, things like that. So for a lot of what you would normally use other people's level 1 supers for to go through attacks or whatever, it actually can't do very well. Because it doesn't. Also because it does no invulnerability, it's just armor. You can actually throw her out of it. Even at the, if it's a meaty throw, whatever, you'll just get thrown. But in place of that invulnerability, you have 2 hits of armor, and so if you actually can use it to punish projectiles, as long as you pretty fast reactions. You got to be quick. Some projectiles won't work. It depends on the character, but all other supers had their projectile invulnerability removed back in the betas. But if you're fast enough, it will punish it. Obviously, if you are a little bit slower, well, this, she's not set to block, but you can see no punish counter. If you're closer, it can be a little easier because you don't have to move as far, but it can be done on reaction, but you got to be really on top of things. Another key thing about the fact that it's armor and not invulnerability is that you take armor damage just like any other armor. So if you are low on health, even if you would have punished them, you'll get KO'd. That means one of the places where you would often use level 1 supers for other characters is when you are too low health to absorb like a DI or something else, something where you normally would use your own DI, or even Scutum. In the case of Marisa, you can't do that if you're really low on health because it's all armor and you'll just get KO'd straight through the armor. So there's a variety of drawbacks. Another one, same story here, is that because it only has 2 hits of armor, no invulnerability, if they do a fast multi-hitting attack, you'll get hit on the 3rd hit. So the super in a lot of ways is worse for the sort of things you would use other characters' level 1 supers for, to go through things. Pretty much the ability to go through projectiles under the right circumstances is about the only useful thing it has in that regard, other than slightly higher damage than most other, than some of the level 1 supers. So the other version that the game makes clear is the fully charged version, which does a lot of damage, nearly as much as level 2. Turn that off. Okay. And this one's difficult to really use for anything most of the time. There's a few combos you can set up where you can get the full charge thing that can end up doing decent damage because it's so high for a level 1. So it's almost just sort of a gimmicky thing for certain combos. As far as using anything outside of those combos, it's not really worth considering. because it just takes too long to charge. So now the key thing is that there's one more version of the super, which some people know, of course, but I still see plenty of people who don't seem to know about it, which is why I made the video. If you are hit by any kind of strike while you are charging the super, you will get a third version that does more damage than the regular level 1, but less damage than the fully charged level 1. So if I turn on, I'll just do the same thing. I can show here that another thing, all right, okay, we'll just show it off. Sorry, one take. So if I do a super, same thing before, as I showed before, if I do a regular version, she'll get just hit like this. However, if I hold the button, you get this. And the key thing there is that they're completely frozen during the startup of the attack. So even if their attack would have been more hits, or recovered really quickly, or anything else, you'll always be countered. The only exception is cross-ups and other attacks that hit at really strange angles above her head. She does still have to actually hit them with the attack that goes in the direction she's facing. So cross-ups she'll still trigger the counter, but it will go the wrong way. But everything else, except for other supers, they break through it. But even armor-breaking attacks like Marisa's attacks will still be absorbed by it. Because it's essentially instantaneous, even attacks that recover so here that you couldn't have punished them with the normal version of level 1, like we'll here have just a regular crouching jab. So if I do a regular super here, it absorbed it with the regular armor, but she recovered too quickly to punish it. But if you do the charged version, because she's locked in place, it still works. So it's impossible to meet it, it's impossible to break through it, and as an additional bonus, as opposed to the scenario I showed off with, let's turn back on the Hadoken, or no, let's do this one. Okay. As I showed earlier, if your health is too low, then if you do the regular one, you'll just get KO'd through it. But in this case, you actually take no armor damage, meaning that even if you had no health left and someone tried to, say, DI you in the corner or wherever, and you couldn't DI back because you'd get KO'd, you couldn't scoot them because you get KO'd even if you were burned out, and you couldn't use the regular level 1 because you'd get KO'd through the armor, you can still use this version. And in fact, there's no reason not to use this version in any time where a strike is going to hit you. It does more damage than the regular level 1, you take no armor damage, there's no drawbacks as long as something is going to hit you and trigger it. In fact, as a small little bonus, is that you can, as long as you're holding the button when the regular super freeze finishes, that's when it checks to see whether if you're charging or not. So you can input the super in a case where you weren't expecting to counter anything. And if you realize there's an attack that's going to hit you, you can start holding the button down after the fact and it'll still work. See, you can see the break where I let go of the button and then whoops, and held it again, and it still worked. So as long as you have it are considered to be holding the button to charge, even for a single frame, it'll trigger. Right. So I think that's everything. Basically, right. The only drawback, the thing that it doesn't do, unfortunately, is it won't work against projectiles. So it's pretty much, very much like the way a perfect parry works. It'll freeze and place any kind of strike, but projectiles, it'll just treat it like you're charging normally and go through. Maybe that was too late. I should show it again just to prove it. Okay, I suck. But trust me. There you go. So yeah, anytime you would be trying to go through a regular attack where you would want invulnerability from a regular super, you should always hold the button and do the counterattack version, and you'll be better off. Yay, Marisa.